2001 kicked off, similar to 2000, the way 2000 was. I still didn't have no job, but still I was able to, as a wrestling fan, be able to record a lot of the wrestling pay-per-views, something I wouldn't have been able to do if I still lived in Oskaloosa. So I was still able to order those. Well, it was throughout 2001, and it was just a tremendous. And 2001 was just a tremendous year for me because it was the first year that I guess you could say that I officially entered the workforce, if you will, of employment, of being employed. Um, I actually about well, it happened around March. I think it was May of that year. Something just told me. I just decided I was just walking down the street on I think it was 23rd Street, and something told me to go into the Burger King there on that street and apply for work. That's what I did because at the time my finances were kind of like being handled by my father. So I decided I wanted to have some money. I was sick and tired of being limited. So I went to into the Burger King there, and I guess it was the hand of God or something. And within the 24 hours that I walked in there, just to see if the hiring, filled out an application, talked to one of the managers, I came back the next day, and before you knew it, I was working there from that moment on to about January 2004. And I know that doesn't really happen much, but it happened to me. And after that, it was like it's a tremendous. I just loved working there. I met some great people. Um, Almost had a girlfriend there, believe it or not. I mean, this girl started showing some interest in me, and I guess I wasn't aware of the number one rule when it comes to relationships on jobs, and that is you can't have one. Because if you do, most of the time it's going to mess you up, especially if one person ends up getting promoted to a higher rank. So, um, but anyway, we moved there. Not moved it, but anyway, like I said, I spent about 3.5 years there and doing that. And throughout 2001, it was just great. Like I said, because every day now I had something to do. I was able to go to work and, do my job, get paid for it, and that actually helped my dad realize, okay, he can do this. Maybe I should put his finances back in his name, and that's what they did, and that's what happened. So now I was getting my finances from the government as well as having my job, at the same time. So, but I had to work it out to where I only worked part time, so I wouldn't lose any of my finances or anything. So I worked there, and throughout that time as well, I was still able to order some of the pay-per-views of wrestling. I ordered some movies off pay-per-view, and it was just a fun time. And of course, as a wrestling fan, I'll never forget 2001 because 2001 was the year that the two competitive companies that you know competed against the WWE or the WWF at the time, which was ECW and WCW, went out of business, and I was surprised by that. I mean, I was watching WCW television, and I kept seeing the fact that they were talking about new owners coming in, new people coming in to take over the company. I had no idea that one day I would go, one day I would turn on a computer, and and the one thing that I still did, even though I lived on my own, is I went to Independence Inc. when I could because I didn't have no computer at the time, or I didn't have the computer that I have now. So I had to keep going to them. And one of the things I saw on the internet when I got there, when I turned on the computer, is it says the WWE website has WWE purchased WCW, and I'm like, huh? Because that was one of the shockers to me, because I thought WCW was still going to be okay. I mean, I knew about ECW going out of business. I tried to get the last pay-per-view on tape, but I think I erased it by accident. But WCW, I heard, was going out of business, and it really surprised me that that was happening, because like I said, I thought they would have been purchased, but I thought they were going to be owned by new people and they were going to, keep going and things like that. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, and WCW ended up, as I said, getting bought by WWF. And I remember watching that night and watching the whole scenario play out, and that started what a lot of people call the ill-fated and not structurally planned invasion storyline. And the invasion storyline kept me entertained. I mean, I liked it. I didn't, think it was, I mean, I thought they did a pretty decent job. I mean, it's not, they can't do, you can't, give, you can't always give the people what they want sometimes when certain circumstances prevent you from doing so. So, anyway, um, that kept me entertained throughout the summer. And then of course, not the summer, but that kept me through, basically it was a summer deal, but it kept me entertained throughout the year. But then of course, I'll never forget, none of us would forget, September 11th of 2001, because I was scheduled to work that day, and I did go to work, but it wasn't until I think later on in the day. And I just remember watching television, turning on the television, and I see the building, the World Trade Center, on fire, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? And this was, I think, on Fox News or something. And then all of a sudden, I think I turned it on just as the second plane came. I switched channels just as the second plane went in, or just as the second plane crashed. And I think as soon as one of the planes, basically the whole thing was just happening. And I called my aunt out here and told her about it. I mean, it was just, it made me mad that day. It really made me mad. And the thing about this is we had sort of like, I don't know if he was Indian or half Indian, half Arabian or something like that, but the moment I went to work, the guy that worked there, that, like I said, I don't know if he was half Indian, half Arabian or what. The day I went in, you could just feel that there was silence in there, and everybody just looking at the guy there, like, they didn't know what to think anymore. So, yeah, that was probably the biggest. But yeah, I'll never forget. I just dropped the remote that day. I was like, my eyes were just popped open, my jaws just dropped. I mean, I couldn't believe what was happening. And I called, like I said, I called my aunt, I called my father, and told him to turn on the TV and look what's happening. And it's like, wow. You couldn't, words couldn't describe what was going on. And ironically, a few months later, me and my father flew out here to California for Christmas. And I thought, because we already made plans about doing that, but we didn't know, because of what had happened, if those plans had to change. Thank God they didn't. But yeah, it was kind of a surprising year. Overall, good year for me, because I was working and I was earning my own money, and I got my finances, government-wise, put back in my name. As a wrestling fan, it became sort of an interesting year, because like I said, you had that ill-fated storyline, invasion storyline, things like that. But overall, 2001 was a good year, except for September 11th. But what can you do about it? What could you do at the time? That's already being done right now, as we speak. So, but yeah, 2001 was a decent year, and that's all I have to say about it.